The warmest of greetings to you, and welcome to Happily Ever Teaching. This is the podcast to help you enthrall your learners in every subject under the sun using the best teaching method known to science, storytelling. To do this, we feature special guest educators who are passionately keen to empower your children. I am storyteller Chip Cahoon, and with me today is...
Hi, I'm Rob. I've worked in Key Stage 1 and Key Stage 2 in village schools and in Milton Keynes.
And I'm Nicola, and I've taught Key Stage 2 from Year 3 all the way to Year 6 for quite a few years now. And I've also taught at university, inspiring future teachers to do the best they can in education.
And today we are exploring English learning outcomes with our original story, Exploring the Water Cycle. You can listen to the story by downloading our sister podcast, Fables and Fairy Tales, or search our website, epictales.co.uk, for Drip, Drop, Plop. There you'll find a video of me telling the story that you can share with your children. And if you sign up as an Epic Educator, you'll also get a copy as a paperback illustrated by Corky Paul's cracking protege, Mario Coelho, as well as the full audiobook for you to download at any time. Right now, though, let's continue our discussion with Rob, Nicola, Drip, Drop, and Plop as we start pulling out some of the English learning outcomes from this story. So we'll start at the lower end of the primary range, the ages 4 to 7. Rob's nodding away, which I'm guessing is because he's bursting with ideas. What's the first you have for us, Rob?
The first idea that I'm going to leak forwards is a story map, and that kind of links to the idea of the fact that this story definitely goes on a journey, like we were saying in our PSHE journey, and we can map where each of the droplets goes. So it would be a great opportunity to get your children to think about recalling a story and thinking about the language that they need to tell a story by, first of all, drawing down the key points that they need from it, and then allowing them to retell the story in their own words. You could then challenge them and say, can you tell this story in a minute and a half, or about 90 seconds? And then could you tell it in a more detailed way as well?
Yeah. I mean, it's quite a challenging one to story map, isn't it? Because it's effectively 3 completely different journeys told one after the other. So how do you let that story map look? Would it be sort of just 3 maps one after the other, or would it be like a flux capacitor, or what?
I think I would probably take one branch of the story or one tributary each week, and then map that, and then join them all together. So do it on a big piece of sugar paper, and then say, oh look, here they go, they're all reforming back into one channel.
Yeah, I do like the shortening it and lengthening it idea, because that's a really good way of making sure that it gets solidified in their minds, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then by doing that, they're also proving to themselves that they can use their own words to tell the story. So that's often the way I'll do it when I'm running storytelling workshops as well. I'll challenge everyone to try and make it as short as possible so that they've not only got it inside their heads, but they know that they can use their own language to tell the story. They don't have to follow the text or copy me or copy you. And then, you can let them lengthen that story out and use their own words even more.
Yeah, which is, and I got the idea from you because you've done that in
did you?
The school where I work. So.
That was me just thinking that great minds think alike, but great minds obviously also steal.
Yes, magpie, not steal.
Magpie, yeah.
I came up with another idea as well, which is kind of more to do with like word level and potentially poetry as well, and that was to do with onomatopoeia, which is something that you start to explore in Key Stage 1, probably not in reception, but it's about the way that words sound, and there are lots of words that have great sounds in this story. So I would get my children to listen to the story and then identify the onomatopoeic words, and then use that as a basis to think of more onomatopoeic words that we know or have come across, and then do some writing based on that as well.
Yeah. I used to love onomatopoeia when I was in school. I mean, just the word itself sounds so enticing, doesn't it? Did you have any particularly favourite examples?
Splamash, that was one. Flumph, I think they flumphed at some point, didn't they? Done sewer.
Yep.
Yeah, all kinds. And even their names, Drip, Drop, and Plop, onomatopoeic.
Yes, yeah. I mean, it's a great example of how language kind of comes into being, because a lot of language, I think we've spoken before, if you take children on a sort of walk and just get them thinking of the sort of sounds that they are making as they feel things under their feet or under their hands, as they're making sounds like and ooh,
Yeah.
you know, you start to hear how that transforms into words like gloop and yuck, and you know, just a lot of words that are created from our natural responses to things, and maybe let them have a go at practicing their phonics and their, is it graphemes?
Yeah.
Practicing taking the sounds that they know, putting them into letters and creating their own words.
Part of the year 1 curriculum is the phonics check, which includes alien words as well, which it sounds completely alien to adults and Key Stage 2 teachers, but they want you to learn unreal words to look at how they're built and the structure that they use. So yeah, that would be a great example of being able to create your own ones rather than just relying on ones that are already there.
Absolutely. Well, then let's follow the tributaries up into ages 7 to 11. Yeah, you've snuck that word into the podcast and it's not leaving for the next 2 weeks. Nicola, what do you have for us for that age range?
I have so many ideas. I'm going to try to condense them. Yeah, Rob's idea of the note-taking I think is important anyway for older children as well, just to follow the story.
Sorry, I've just got the condensed joke.
Yeah, condensation. Haven't quite got evaporation in there yet. But no, sorry.
So you could try filtering them as well.
Could try filtering. That's a great idea. Yeah, I think a story map's important anyway. I think if you're taking the story and using it on a different journey, children will still need to see a story map because there's quite a lot of different things that happen. Ideas that I had, I've done this before actually with 10 and 11-year-olds where they wrote as if they were one of the water droplets and they went through the water cycle. So we actually have done this, but obviously your story had so much more, but it was written from a first person perspective, so the way they spoke perhaps was faster if they were a gas and it slowed down if they were a solid. I remember them
That's a brilliant idea.
flying from the air, going down as rain and going wee, and sort of the children absolutely loved it. And we collect evidence at the end of each year for some of our best pieces of writing to sort of show where the children are at in standards. And some of the children definitely use that work, even though it wasn't meant to be a really enriched writing activity. It was more linked to, I think it was the geography we were doing, but it became incredible and they absolutely loved it. And there were children that aren't particularly very confident at writing that really embraced it. So you could take one of the characters, I wouldn't say all three, but take one of them and rewrite the story of what happened from their perspective and thinking about the voices that come through.
I love the idea of having them go faster when they're a gas or using... So I guess that would be shorter words, monosyllabic.
Definitely. And then you could use capitals to show it slowing down and spread out those capitals. Yeah. And if they then acted it out, say they acted it out, or they could actually then use that within drama as well, which would be really good.
Yeah. God, I wish we'd had this discussion before I wrote the story. That's a fantastic idea.
No, I'd say the children love that type of writing. It was really memorable. I feel quite lucky this week because, like you said, last week was less of my experience, so I had to really think about it a bit more. This one seems fairly straightforward because it's very naturally to be done with older children, so it fits in brilliantly. Poetry we've mentioned. I write poetry and I often use that to inspire children, and this is about the journey of life, and I think that could be an inspiration. Another idea I had was, I mean, I don't know if it's postcards now because children don't write postcards, so it might be writing an email, but writing postcards from the different places that the raindrops have gone to. So they write home about their experiences and where they're at and how they're missing home, but they're having a great time. The sort of thing they'd do if they went on a residential, like we mentioned in the last podcast. But writing different postcards, maybe 6, well, depending on how many places they've been to, but writing 6 postcards home and thinking how they're feeling in those situations, and if they're feeling warm or if they're feeling cold, if they're feeling lonely, if they're excited to see their family again, because hopefully they'll see them soon, all of that sort of thing.
Yeah, and postcards are one of those forms of writing that really should come back, because as people travel around, even if they're traveling around their own country, it's so lovely to receive a postcard.
Definitely. I mean, you go abroad and you still see them everywhere. And actually, if I use postcards postcards in school, which I do sometimes for different learning. For example, if you're doing RE and you're going on Hajj, you'd write postcards home. Children still get it. It's still a thing.
And it forces you to really think carefully about the words that you're going to use because you don't have much space. So you've really got to think about the points that you're going to make. And of course, you can combine it with an art activity by creating the picture that goes on the other side. Yeah,
definitely. And it helps those children, like you say, that are slightly less confident writing, because the pressure isn't on them to write loads. It is just about the few words that they are writing. I mean, on another note that came up on the last podcast when we were talking, the idea of the social media, if they had a social media account and they posted every now and then some writing about where they're at instead of the postcard, that's another one that might be more relevant perhaps in the future. I still think postcards work today.
You could kind of limit that because Twitter has a 140 character limit. So I think
is it 140 or is it 200? I think it's 280 now. I think 140 is what it used to be.
Yeah. But you could definitely say, okay, in the same way that can you tell a story in a minute and a half? Can you get all of your ideas across in, you don't have to stick to 140 or 280, you could say 200.
Yeah, but or 100 words or something.
Yeah.
Or they could make a podcast of their travels and record it.
Excellent idea.
Recording. So again, children that struggle with writing, why not record it verbally? And then they could use the voice idea that we had before in it as well.
Yes, absolutely.
It's freezing in this wherever I am. Anyway.
Which is so ironic to say in the weather that we've got at the moment.
Yes.
Seeing you getting steadily pinker.
I mean, children in school, they've all mostly got PowerPoints and things like that. They could use that to put the picture and the writing on, and they love that way of working as well.
Yeah, well, that is brilliant. Thanks, folks. We are swimming in English objectives now. Yeah. That's sadly all we have time for in this episode, folks. If you'd like to talk to us about anything you've heard in this podcast, or if there's a subject you're soon to teach that you'd like us to cover, you can find us on social media using @TeachHappily, or leave us a review using your favourite podcast app. Please also share this podcast with your colleagues and help us start a story-led revolution in classrooms around the world, so children everywhere can learn in a way that's effective, memorable, and enjoyable all at the same time. Tomorrow, Drip, Drop, and Plop will help us teach maths. But right now, it only remains for us to say cheerio, and we hope to hear your story soon. So, cheerio!
And we hope to hear your story soon.